Hello and welcome for another episode of Ask Reddit. For today's episode, people who can fall asleep within 8 seconds of their head hitting their pillow. How the fuck do you fall asleep within 8 seconds of your head hitting your pillow?
That's my secret cap, I'm always tired.
I'm surprised this isn't closer to the top. I'm always tired and can fall asleep no problem, and I thought a lot of people were like that. But I'm just now realizing that maybe I have a problem.
This is what I came to say. I'm so exhausted all the time. If I have no responsibilities to wake up for, I'll easily sleep 15 to 20 hours. I'll fall asleep at my desk, on the bus, on the toilet. As a kid, I'd come home from school and just make it through the front door, before falling asleep on the floor, fully clothed with my backpack still on. I paid for a sightseeing bus tour along the River Nile in Egypt, and slept through most of it, because I always sleep on car rides. I read books 3 pages at a time with lots of accidental naps in between. My big question is, how do people stay awake and alert for a whole day? My flatmates sleep 5 to 6 hours a night and I get tired just thinking about it.
You should see a doctor maybe. Stay awake until you fall asleep in the couch, then groggily walk to the bed when you inevitably wake up.
I'm usually more awake at that point than before I napped.
I'm a firefighter and my one partner says what he likes least about me is my ability to fall asleep so fast after returning from a call. It has to be physically tired. Much easier to fall asleep when your body has been engaged in physical activity during the day. I try to lay perfectly still and not allow myself to scratch my nose if it itches, for example. I just ignore the itch and next thing I know, it's time to get up. I just discovered that there are people with an inner monologue and this voice in their head allows them to have silent discussions and worry about decisions and whatnot. I don't have this. I don't have any voices talking to me. My preference is also to listen to a documentary on YouTube or Netflix. I set my timer on my phone to stop playing after 20 minutes and rarely stay awake till the end. I'm very well versed on the first 10 minutes of World War II.
What's it like when you think thoughts then? Do you hear them? I never knew there were people without internal monologues.
He obviously is an NPC.
Just doing what the script says apparently. Lol.
That is so fucking insane to me that people don't have an inner monologue. Like, how the hell do you think?
Not OP, but I mostly do my thinking with no monologuing. I can summon up a narrative voice for when decisions aren't obvious or when I need to come up with words to say, like right now, but mostly I make decisions quickly and don't bother consulting my inner monologue or dialogue. Other times for nonverbal problems I'll think in shapes, numbers, object models, emotions, attitudes, visualizations, etc. Thinking actual words when not talking to people is pretty rare for me.
That sounds pretty cool, man. I think the inner monologuers are more likely to be space cadets of the bunch and end up distracted. It's not like making food and thinking pick up pot, reach for oil to put in pot. It's more like I'm just doing that shit and having a conversation with myself on how many nails it must have took to build the White House or some dumb shit.
My brother is one of these people and I asked him this recently. Him.
The trick is a clean conscience. I got nothing to think about.
Me. How do you not think about anything? Him.
I dunno. I just stop thinking.
He's 16.
Not thinking is the key. I had to train myself to completely clear my mind. Start by cutting inner monologues. Imagine you were born deaf and think primarily in images. Then cut those and just focus on what you feel. The last step is to tune out those sensations. In the beginning, you will only be able to sustain it for a couple seconds, but you'll be able to go longer with time. Eventually, it'll be second nature. In the beginning, my primary goal was to remove the stress of my life for a moment through meditation, but it ended up being a useful way to fall asleep. Also, I don't remember the last time I've woken up in the middle of the night. The only downside is that I sleep like the dead and never dream. I just close my eyes as if to blink, and when I open them back up, it's morning, and my wife is pissed that I missed my alarm.
This is what I call my straight vibing state of mind.
That's what I call it when we break out the Hitachi.
Those are for medical massage only.
It's okay, she's a nurse.
So, basically meditate?
Haha. Exactly what I was thinking reading this. I imagine most people are afraid of the word meditation, but it's not some supernatural or mythical power. It can be really simple to put into practice.
He's inadvertently become a pro at meditation.
This is me. I've learned to live with no regrets, so there's nothing to worry about when my mind relaxes. Every decision I ever made was the right one at that time. Or at least what I wanted, so there's no point stressing about it now.
I'm the exception to this rule. Classic anxiety and OCD issues. Spend most of the day what ifing, but when I get to bed I'm asleep within 15 minutes usually. I think the stress of it all is just exhausting enough that when I do go to bed I just pass out.
The key to being happy. Everything that happens to me was the greatest thing that could happen to me. For one reason or another. Channel that energy into bring great.
I turn on Netflix, or Hulu, to a show I've seen a million times. I turn away from the screen and fall asleep.
The key is that it can't be something you need to pay attention to. Works like a charm for me.
I did this only with shows I thought were stupidly boring. One single episode of Star Trek Voyager lasted me 6 weeks. Only problem is I eventually became a fan, am now a proud Trekkie, and the bloody shows can't put me to sleep anymore because they're too interesting.
My friend does this. We'll be playing video games, then he'll suddenly be tired and good night. Literally seconds later I can hear him snoring in his room.
Like your friend, I also can sleep right away. I've been teased about it a lot growing up. But seeing as how I'm in the minority of people, I must assume that would be because of envy. I'm not sure if other people like me are like this, but I don't have an inner monologue that distracts from my sleep time.
Dude, you have no idea how many people want to sleep like you do. For me personally, it would be like a dream come true. I've had so many sleepless nights even when I would be extremely exhausted, from lots of physical or mental activity that day. It's just awful. The smallest, insignificant thing, can keep me up thinking, worrying, or panicking about just enough to not let me sleep. I rarely fall asleep within 1 hour, usually it's between 1 to 2 hours. I hate it because I could be a much better person without these issues. You're a lucky guy. Added info, I've been diagnosed with ADHD nowadays, 3 years ago, and take medications. The sleeping problems were just the same before the diagnosis though, which was part of the reason why I got diagnosed in the first place.
Me sleep? I rarely fall asleep within 1 hour, usually it's between 1 to 2 hours. I hate it because I could be a much better person without these issues. My dude. You might want to listen to audiobooks at night. They completely immerse you in a story. I used to be a total insomniac, because of racing thoughts. Audiobooks change the game.
Man. I have insomnia, and none of this shit works.
I always laugh at the responses to these. Because most of them are a chicken or the egg situation. Insomniacs don't have trouble sleeping because they look at a screen before falling asleep. We look at a screen in bed because we know how miserable it is to literally lay in a pitch black room with nothing but white noise for 7 straight hours and never fall asleep. We don't have a schedule because of our insomnia. We don't have insomnia because we don't have a schedule. We work out at night because we spend the morning still trying to fall asleep. When we work out in the morning, it means we don't sleep at all for 48 plus hours. We have tried to just don't think about anything. We've tried no screens. We've tried relaxing voices /sound/podcasts. We've tried meditation. We've Googled every possible thing to learn how to fall asleep. We've tried whatever bullshit herb or sleep aid is popular this week. That shit just doesn't work. It's not our faults. Our brains are just idiots.
I remember when my sleep therapist gave me the advice that if you've been lying in bed for an hour, and still can't fall asleep, get up and do something productive, that doesn't cause blue light, for example sweep your kitchen. And try again in an hour to sleep. It was summer holidays so I had 8 weeks off from work. I work in a school, which meant no commitments. I decided to truly let my body decide when it wanted to sleep. I tried practicing perfect sleep hygiene exactly as prescribed. I didn't notice an improvement in my sleep schedule. I'd be awake at the weirdest hours of the night. But when I was actually tired, I'd fall asleep easily. And more importantly, I woke up feeling rested. Unfortunately, that could mean sleeping from 3 a.m. to 11 p.m. on Monday, having a 90-minute nap at 1 p.m. on Tuesday, then sleeping from 4 p.m. to 1 a.m. on Wednesday. And that's not something I can do during the working week. Every day was different. After 2 months, I brought my sleep diary back to her and she took one look and said, "Oh, you don't have insomnia and sleep deprivation related crashes like we thought. Looks like you have a circadian rhythm disorder." She sent me for further testing to confirm, but yeah, my internal body clock is set to shuffle. No amount of don't drink coffee after midday is going to fix a congenital neurological condition. And idiopathic insomnia is also technically a neurological condition. But melatonin sure helps. I've had so many lay people tell me, "Oh, careful with taking melatonin every night, prolonged use can destroy your body's ability to fall asleep without it." My body's ability to fall asleep naturally was already fucked. My doctor prescribes my medication and I'll trust them. With my current dose, I can fall asleep within 20 minutes of hitting the pillow, no matter what time it is. It doesn't help me stay asleep, but I've never had issues with that. I'm a deep sleeper, other than owning a small bladder.
I have delayed sleep phase syndrome, which more or less means I am nocturnal. Can't sleep during the night no matter how hard I try, and trying makes me miserable. It doesn't help at all with falling asleep. My brain is too stupid for that, but knowing my circadian rhythm is off made my stress levels way lower than before I knew. Everyone kept trying to fix my sleep schedule. You would feel so much better if you slept at normal, consistent hours. Surprise, surprise, that's actually not true at all. Gotta listen to what your body tells you, and some of our bodies say, when the sun goes down, I come up. Now I have a fairly consistent sleep schedule of 5 a.m. to 4 p.m., and it works well for me. But even the sleep specialist I saw said, most people have to work their life around their sleep, not their sleep around their life, so if I get a job, get the night shift.
Chronic sleep deprivation.
I came in here to offer some advice like, think about being in a movie or video game, but the more I think about it, the more I'm sure you are right.
I actually do just play Elder Scrolls in my head. I just start running around in the forest somewhere thinking of some imaginary quest to do, but I am always asleep before I finish the quest. Pretty view in my mind to fall asleep too, though. Ha ha.
Chronic sleep deprivation can actually make my insomnia worse.
Yeah, if I'm sleep deprived enough, it will stress me out to the point I can't sleep whatsoever.
If I stay up too late, I'll get anxious, and think if I go to sleep now I won't wake up in time for work. At least once a month I pull 40 hours on no sleep because of this.
For me it was a learned skill. Thank you, US Army. They pushed me to work from reveille to taps. And only allowed for 5 to 6 hours of sleep, and I need 7 to 8. I wore an alarm watch. Any break during the day? Oh, I have 25 minutes. Set alarm watch, prop against a tree or lay down anywhere I could, bam, asleep. My wife is still amazed at how I do it.
I used to be an aircraft mechanic in the military. I was in a tug vehicle used to tow aircraft, waiting for another shop to finish a low-power turn engine are running. I was maybe 10 to 15 feet away from the aircraft, sitting in the tug. All that noise and still managed to take a 45-minute nap, and woke up as soon as the engine shut down. I'm pretty sure they ran the engines up to 75% power, and still slept right through it all.
We must be related. I can fall asleep anywhere, anytime, for as long as I can. My dad has fallen asleep while building fences.
Hit it hard enough.
On this bed?
Nailed it.
I love you.
No, I love you.
No, I love you.
I'm a lifelong insomniac, but my sister could fall asleep on her way to the pillow, and sleep through the car going over train tracks. I wake up if a mouse farts across the street. I never got it.
Out of all the things you could say to represent a little noise, a mouse farting across the street is what you chose. I respect it. I agree with it. And I most definitely will use it in the future.
Poof. 4,000 plus upvotes and 3 silver for this.
Damn it. I was almost asleep.
I've worked 20 plus shifts and be ridiculously tired, and still takes me 20 to 30 minutes at least. So I don't know what the answer is. I think it's just brain chemistry.
I wonder why that is. Could it be that because of the stress your body is hyped up, and have released hormones to keep you alert/alive, and it takes time to burn those? I'm just guessing here.
I use a meditation method I learned in a yoga class. Lay flat on your back, take deep breath through your nose. As you exhale, mentally relax each muscle group starting with your face and working down to your toes. Try to imagine exhaling through your muscles and out through your toes. Imagine your body slowly melting into your bed. This usually takes about 30 seconds to 1 minute. Next, imagine as vividly as possible a river. It helps if you use one from memory. I personally use a combination of the River Wild movie and memories from a family trip to the Green River. Imagine yourself walking out to the middle of the river. Let yourself get lost in the flow around you. Try to imagine any stray thoughts as floating to you on the river. As you think of things, set them in the water and watch them float away. This process without fail gets me to sleep within 10 minutes, if I am having trouble sleeping. But like Ralph Wiggum, sleep is where I am a Viking. Thanks for the gold, kind stranger. Sorry for my abysmal Simpsons knowledge. I think I really just wanted Ralph to be an amazing genius, who kills people in space and commits xenocide.
That sounds nice. But how can I stop imaging the swift rapids, sweeping my ass, straight to work, while my douchebag boss is following me in a boat?
Imagine you're boating on a folded 2 weeks' notice.
Go on.
I was perfectly calm until I started thinking about how thick a piece of cardstock you'd need to be able to use it as a boat.
You can't think? Don't think of anything real or about falling asleep. Once you do, you'll never go to sleep. Best trick I've found when I don't fall asleep easy is to put myself in a movie. Like imagine yourself walking through the gates of Hogwarts. What happens next? All up to you, and just let your imagination flow. Eventually you'll fall asleep without realizing it.
I have to kinda gaze into the back of my eyelids without thinking. Like when you rub your eyes and all the different shapes and images and shit fly around. I just watch them with absolutely no thought and I'm out within 2 to 3 minutes.
Came here to say this. Roll my eyes all around and creates some sort of light or shape. I think it's because of the friction on the eyelid.
If I recall correctly, I think that's actually closer to the eye's equivalent of the static when you're tuned into an empty channel. The brain basically starts rendering signal noise as lights/shapes in the absence of any inputs. It would be a little alarming if there was enough friction between your eye and your eyelids to produce visual effects.
Just basically never give a shit about anything meaningful, that way you'll never have anything to keep you awake. Totally healthy way to approach life.
This is just another way of saying acceptance. It actually is a really healthy way of approaching life if you do it right. Not necessarily not doing anything you give a shit about, instead realizing that nothing really matters as much as you think it does, and loving what you're going through. I have created an imaginary world in my head, that I only visit when I'm in bed and going to sleep. My mind associates those places, and characters and narratives with sleep. How wonderful to wake up and discover that this comment went bananas. Smile, so cool to see so many people with awesome imaginations. Makes me so happy.
I do the same thing, and I never thought about the associative factor as being why it's so effective. I also wear a sleep mask, and I think putting it on is part of the ritual that tells my brain that it's bedtime.
But how do you mess around on your phone for 2 hours with a sleep mask on? Oh. I think I am starting to see one of the key differences between people who get enough sleep and me.
Are you Batman?
Batman.
Watch for my signal. Turns on nightlight. Wow, 3.5K and a silver. Thanks.
So, when you respond to the Bedman signal, do you bump into people on their way to the bathroom?
This sounds so much more effective than my nightly bed routine of looking at Reddit for 5 more minutes, for an hour.
I do the same. And every night, before I sleep. Before the gentle dreams I keep. Inside my dozing, drifting mind. Where wizards pose. And lizards find. A place to chart a trip to stars. Or start a ship in space to Mars. Or take a plane to somewhere new. A car, a train to Timbuktu. I put my worries out of reach. I dream about the waves, the beach. The wind, the sun, the fish, the foam, and make a wish to run, to roam. To where the air is scented breeze. and fair between contented trees, that sing a song of love to keep. And then I wake, and wish for sleep.
Of all the things that have happened, people that have come and gone, places that have changed since I joined Reddit 6 years ago, your wonderful poems have been one of the few constants in that time. I never know when you might appear, but it's always a nice surprise when you do. Thank you. Okay, so after years of tossing and turning and having horrible sleeps, I've come close to nailing my routine. Exercise during the day. Wake up and go to bed at the same time every day, if possible, that way your body knows when it's time to crash. Magnesium supplement, with melatonin and GABA about an hour before I want to fall asleep. Weighted blanket. For whatever reason helps me relax like nothing else. I actually can now usually fall asleep within a few minutes of going to bed, but if not, I play a little mind game. Body scanning is a solid one. Just imagine a ray of sunlight slowly going over you from your toes to your head, and relax your muscles as the sunlight goes over them. I hope that makes sense. There's a lot of guided meditations on YouTube that can walk you through it. I also pick a category and try to name one thing in that category for every letter of the alphabet. Example: fruits, apple, banana, cantaloupe, ZZZZZZZ. And finally, I sometimes imagine walking down to the beach near my house and taking a nap there, although I rarely make it far enough to take a nap now. None of this stuff works right away, but even one can make a huge difference with some commitment, so just give it a bit of time. Smile. Keep your room cold. This one actually worked for me a bit more quickly, because I have issues with nightmares, to the point where my husband literally can calm me down in his sleep, and I saw a major correlation between that and the heat of my room. I switched from a duvet that had me waking up drenched in sweat, to a weighted blanket with a bamboo cover that manages to not trap my body heat. Apparently hot showers before bed and wearing warm socks can also help you cool down as your body tries to self-regulate, or something?
I recently changed everything in my room. Bedding, window treatments, making sure the room is dark, and that I am able to get comfortable. A proper pillow that doesn't overheat. And lastly, the weighted blanket, which is helpful at immobilization and associated with bedtime. I started taking GABA about 45 minutes before bed on stressful days. Since I started, falling asleep has gotten so much easier. Reading in bed seems to help too. My mind drifts and then I set the book down and I'm out fast. Made the changes because I used to be a night owl. Up all night. I changed jobs and the commute requires so much more time that I have to have a routine. I never used to get more than 5 hours of sleep. Now I get far more in quality sleep. All great suggestions, and it did take time for this to improve. Over the course of 6 months for me.
This is literally me. My husband is just the reverse. The main differences I observe between the two of us. I'm a doer, he is a thinker. Worrying about stuff keeps him up at night, whereas I go to bed with the reassurance I've done all I can do that day and que sera sera. He brings his phone to bed and browses Reddit. I'm strictly no screens an hour before bed. Other than bringing the phone to bed, he has no routine. By about 9:30, I'm winding down with my skincare routine, washing up, making a hot drink, and then in bed with a book by 10:15 at the latest. Since I'm the high-energy person in the relationship, I'm moving and doing things all the time, get home from work, cooking, have dinner, work out, do some laundry, read before bed. I'm pretty physically tired/drained by the time I hit the pillow. My husband runs at what seems to be a consistently lower energy level, like low enough that he needs a lot of downtime, usually in front of screens, to recharge, but high enough that he doesn't sleep well.
My husband and I are the same way in that I fall asleep instantly, and he tosses and turns for an hour or so. Sometimes he even gets back up and goes out to the living room because he can't get comfortable. That is such a foreign concept to me. Once I'm in bed, I'm out like a light. But then again, I can fall asleep anywhere. I'm more of the thinker though. By the time I get to bed, I've thought myself tired. Then I pass out.
Well, there you have it. Comment down below of what you think about today's episode. Leave a like if you like the video, and subscribe for more videos. Thank you for watching and have a great day ahead.